on this computer. Okay, so I see, I'm going to leave you unmuted so we can feel like a conversation. So if you feeling you have some noise at your end, you're welcome to mute yourself at your end. I want to start with a couple of things to discuss. This is why I want to keep you unmuted. First of all, well, I was expecting more members of our shul. I think it's only Arthur and Marcy who are actually members of the shul. But this is my share, this is my public forum. So I'm going to wish, we saw that there was a nominated committee, nominated 2 people to take over on the board. They did not say who they were replacing. I don't know if it's being kept secret or if it was just an error. But anyway, did not say who they were replacing. And 2 new people, I spoke to them in person. They were slated. It's not been officially ratified, it seems, but I certainly wish them lots of bracha. And I gave them the bracha, as you remember, from shul. Well, Arthur and Marcy are the only people who might remember that we spoke about when the new board started, and it's something I'm very particular in, to always wish them much hatzlacha, much bracha, success. So I found those 2 people, and I quoted the blessing that we say on Shabbat. We say in Yukum Porka, we say, anybody who works faithfully and diligently for the community, Hashem should give them the reward, heal them, and prevent them, save them from all illness. So I wish them that blessing. Howie Brown has had some difficulties with vertigo and other issues, which is why he's not been in shul. So I said to him, this was the best decision you could have made. He burst out laughing because he didn't expect the rabbi to say coming on the board is the best thing for your health, right? You expect just the opposite. I said, because now you're working for the community, you'll get the blessing of having a refuah shalema. So let's hope that that bracha holds true, and so on. Okay, so that's my blessing to them. They don't happen to be on, but this was my forum. So that's that. The second thing is I want to share my screen.
You only said 1. Who was the other?
Jay Silberner.
Right, of course.
I phoned him as well. They sent around an email, the shul. They didn't say who they are replacing. But, okay, so on my screen, you can see an email from Rabbi Goodman. Now, Rabbi Goodman is a member of our shul. He's in our community. He's here for a long time this year because of coronavirus. Normally last year he came just for a few weeks here, a few weeks there. He gave a wonderful drasha, not last year, the year before, on shatnez. He is a professional shatnez checker. Shatnez is the forbidden mixture of wool and linen and clothes, and he checks them, right? You get a little sticker, people can see, right? You get a little sticker that says it's been checked for shatnez. He is a professional. He even wrote a book on the subject. He gave me a copy of his book, fascinating book that he wrote. He's considered one of the highest up people. So he gave a, who was, Arthur, were you at that share? Did you watch that?
I was not, did not. Nope.
Right. It was a wonderful, he brought samples and he showed us how it works. It was a wonderful share. Anyway, so I've asked him to give another share. Maybe in a couple of weeks when it's yeshiva break and my kids are off school, I might take a couple of weeks off. Not that I can really go anywhere or do anything, but maybe we can have a staycation. So, he is a fascinating man. He worked for ICI, which is, you've heard of ICI? It's a big science company, ICI and stuff, and he did wonderful stuff. So he gave me a list of topics that you may be interested in. I thought, you know what? What's interesting to me might not be interesting to you. So let's go through them, and if anything tickles your fancy, let me know. So one, he can talk about Aguna based in. Aguna has chained women whose husbands refuse to give them gets. So he has a case that he can discuss. Fishing, he's a big fisherman, Arthur, you might like it. Fishing, some interesting halachas. Chalitza is where a woman's, unfortunately, husband dies without children. Then the brother of the husband has to do this whole ceremony with the shoe, and he's done that before. A shaitel issue, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, where these shaitels were avodah zarah. He actually told me that he used to investigate. He actually made investigations for the OU to test the hair to see where it came from. So I think that's a fascinating issue. How does an oven need to be kashered? Bugs in New York water, tefillin checking, although we've just had a professional sofa move to the area, so maybe we'll leave that to him. Kashrus, probiotics, calcium from seashells, glycerin, cosmetics, shatnez in Chinese clothing, sukkah mats, and sfarim authentication. So if any of these things are subjects you want to hear about, let me know. Otherwise, I think fishing, some interesting halachas might be a good topic, and maybe the aguna case, because that's something that people might feel practical that happens. I don't know how, anybody have any ideas, any suggestions? No? Okay, so I think I might go for the fishing and the aguna. How does that sound?
Go for it.
Sounds like that might be interesting to people. Okay, these are things that, you wouldn't hear regular rabbis talk about because they haven't had that necessarily experience in it. So maybe we'll go for those. Okay. So today's parasha this week is Va'era, where God takes the Jews, well, he doesn't take us out this week, he takes them out next week. He comes back. He brings 7 plagues on the Egyptians, the blood and the frogs, and then the lice, and then the boils, and the pestilence, and the wild animals coming. And finally, this week, finish off with the hailstones, the fire and water mixed together. Each time Paro says, yeah, I'll let them go, don't worry. And then obviously when things get better, he changes his mind and he disagrees. The rabbis tell us that what happened in Mitzrayim and the subsequent redemption mirrors what's going to happen at the end of days. Now, I like to call it the law of diminishing returns. That by the fact that it's been 1950 years since the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we must be getting towards the end, right? I like to call it the law of diminishing returns. By the fact every year goes on, we must obviously be getting closer. So I wanted to, in light of current events, in light of recent events, I wanted to share some topics from the Gemara about the times of Moshiach, about what's happening at times of Moshiach, and you can decide. That's why I've left people unmuted. We can have a discussion if you so wish, bearing in mind that we are being recorded at the moment and it is going to be put on YouTube. So if you'd rather wait until the end when I turn it off, that's fine. So be aware of that. And you can make up your own mind if you think these things that we're going to talk about are happening at the moment, okay? I want to start off, before anybody gets the wrong idea, I want to start off by saying, of course, I condemn, in the highest possible language of condemnation, the acts and atrocities, of course, and the violence, and certainly the breaking into Congress and so on and so forth. I completely condemn all of that. Of course I do, and violence and loss of life and everything else. Of course I do. But I want to talk about it in relation to some of these things. So I want to make that clear. I condemn it completely. Of course I do. I don't think I'm a rabble-rouser, whatever they call them, or an anarchist, or I think in this country they call them an anarchist. In England, they say anarchist. Here they seem to say anarchist. I don't know. But anyway, I'm certainly not one of those, unless it comes to the Hanukkah story, in which case all the Jews were anarchists and rabble-rousing. But that's not a topic for now. So I want to get that out of the way, right, before we talk about some of these things. But I just wanted to put a perspective from the Gemara. You know, we have many rabbis throughout the centuries that people can talk about, disagree with, right, left wing, right wing, radical, not radical, right? Everyone can label people the way they want. But when it comes to the Gemara, that is something that all Yiddishkeit we hold sacred, right? What it says in the Gemara, we may not we have different interpretations of what it means. We have different ways of understanding it. But the basic idea of the Gemara is, what's the right word to use? It's like sacrosanct, right? What goes on the Gemara, that's what we accept. So I want to go through some Gemaras that talk about the time at the end of days of Moshiach, and we can see whether we think some of these things are happening. Remember, we spoke in the last few weeks, and we quoted the Abar Ben-El, who was a 15th century scholar from Spain, that talk about that everything that happens on a national level is all ordained by God, right? People don't have free choice. We see in this week's parasha, God takes away Paro's heart. It is Vayichbad, Vayachbet, he hardened his heart for the last 5 plagues. First 5, he had a bit of free will. Why? Because that didn't affect national security. Because if he'd let the Jews go, they still would have gone, right? They would have gone without the signs, but they still would have gone. But after 5, God said, you know what? I fancy having a little bit of sport here, right? And you think it's funny saying the word sport. God himself said that word. Next week, he says, you've got to remember, and they translated that you've got to remember how I played with Egypt, right? Isn't that how it translated? I played with Egypt. Check. mean, I have the memory of what's the animal they all use? I have a memory of an elephant. I saw it once in a zoo. No, I can't find that funny. Tough crowd. No. Okay.
I think they use the same word for juggling, by the way, in Hebrew.
Is that out is juggling?
The same word, Bruce.
Right. So it's the idea that you're playing, you're messing about, right? You're sport, right? I played with Mitzrayim. I used them for my sport, right? Of course, I'm not going to find it now, right? Here we go. The beginning of next week, Cedra. I put these signs of mine in the midst so that you may relate in the ears of your son and your son's sons how I made a mockery of Egypt. Here it says mockery, okay? But some translated that I played with them, I tormented them. So God was playing with them. So we know that all the things that happen are in God's hands. And whilst, of course, we have to do our bit, we have to do our bit to keep ourselves safe. We have to do our bit to punish people who do things wrong. Of course we do. People have to be held accountable, and we have to be taken to justice, and to get that straight. But of course we have to acknowledge that there is a higher power at large. So before we do, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen again. And we're going to go to the Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Sanhedrin 97a. If anybody wants to take a much longer view of what will happen at the time of Moshiach and so on, the Gemara in Sanhedrin Perek Chelek, the 10th chapter of Sanhedrin from page, I don't know what page it starts. It starts, here we go. It starts at 70, it starts at page 90, and it goes all the way to 100 and goes all the way to, oh, it keeps going, the gift that keeps going. So from 90 to 113, right? So it's 23 pages. It's more or less all stories and interpretations. It's not complicated halachic discourse. They're very big, thick, wide pages. And if anybody wants to really get involved and study and look into this, I would advise you to have a good look at something you want to do and so on. But I'm going to choose this. Page 97a. Now again, we're going to talk about this objectively, if you don't mind. We're going to try and keep our feelings, I mean, because some of these things are very, very scary. But still, we're going to, so on. God says, I'm going to raise up the booth of David that fell. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Dar Sheba and David Ba, the generation that King David, the son of David, is coming, ayi Moshiach, Tamidei Chachamim Mismatim. We can see it in the English, right? The Torah scholars will decrease. And as for the rest of the people, their eyes fail with sorrow and grief, and troubles increase. And the harsh decrees will be introduced before the first passes. The second one quickly comes. So I think, again, these are my views. I think, unfortunately, there's so many rabbis who have died since the coronavirus started. There was another big rabbi who died, Rabbi Kellever, from West Hempstead. He died. A lot of rabbis, my own rabbi who gave me smicha died. Again, he was only 71 from coronavirus. Many great rabbis in Israel have died. And I think we can say, right, with Rabbi Sachs, with Jonathan Sachs, right? He was somebody that I think most people recognized as a wonderful rabbi. He died. It was also early 70s. Rabbi David Feinstein, he was a great rabbi. So many, many rabbis have died in this last year. So I think, to me, again, that is a fulfillment of this prophecy of the Gemara, that the generation that Moshiach comes, the Torah scholars will decrease. Unfortunately, they've died after so many tzaddikim, great men have died over the last year. And then it talks about the decrease, right? That before the first decree is passed, the second degree comes. And I think this is something that you see in the coronavirus, right? Again, you're welcome to give me your own thoughts. But the coronavirus seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. We thought, right, lockdown 3 weeks. Isn't that what we said? 3 weeks, protect the hospitals. Let's not overwhelm the hospitals. And we thought that would be okay. It went on and on. Then we thought we'd beaten it, right? Florida, we've beaten the virus, right? The governor came out, we've beaten the virus. Israel, England, they all said we've beaten it, we're fine, right? Came June and July, it came worse than before, right? Like, yeah, before the first one is finished, the second one has come. And then, when we thought that was bad, got even worse. Now the cases are crazy. What was it, 20,000 cases? In Florida, we have terrible hospitals are absolutely full. It's getting worse and worse. Like it says, the final generation of Moshiach, right? The Gezeirus, the terrible decrees from heaven, just seem to be getting worse. To me, that's what's happening now. But now we want to take it into a little bit more frightening way. The sages taught in Nebraska. So let's just back up. We know that there is a Shemitah cycle. That means every completely 6 years, every 7th year is Shemitah. The earth must lie fallow. We don't plow it, we don't work. And it's like the Shabbos of the year, the Shabbos of the ground. So 6 years we work, and the 7th year we don't do any work at all. So much so that the Torah, when it goes through the punishments, says that most of the punishments that we get happen because we don't keep Shemitah. We don't stop working on the land for a year. And that's why we have terrible punishment. So there is the first year of Shemitah. Now, and this is going to become interesting for the Gemara, we are currently in the 6th year of the Shemitah cycle. And next year, from Rosh Hashanah, next year is Shemitah. So Rosh Hashanah next year is the start of Shemitah, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. You know what? Let me Google it, because we don't want to start giving you a share and telling you wrong information. But I think, when is the next? I'm sure that we are now in the 6th year of Shemitah. I'm sure of it, right? Next Shemitah, 215782. Right, I thought so. So next year is Shemitah. We're now in the 6th year of Shemitah, if you can believe everything you read on Google. Okay. So here is what we're going to read. Here, Rabbi Yosef says, Amar Rabbi Yosef, how come here? No, I've gone too far. Let's read it in the English. The sages taught with regard to the 7-year period, i.e. the Shemitah cycle, the sabbatical cycle, during which the Moshiach, the son of David, comes. During the first year, the first of the cycle, that's 6 years ago, I will cause it to rain upon the city and cause it not to rain upon another city. During the 2nd year of that period, arrows of famine will be shot, indicating that there will be famine only in certain places. Now, you look in regions like Darfur and other regions of the Sahara and Africa, there certainly has been famine. There certainly has been droughts. I think even in Florida, they were worried at one stage it was going to be a drought, that we didn't have as much rain. It's hard to believe Florida had so much rain. But a few years ago, I remember they were saying that Florida didn't have as much rain as they thought about 4 years ago, Taka, about this year, right? They thought Florida was going to be in a drought. Anybody remember that? No? But certainly, I think Arthur, you were still in Israel then, right? And whatever. So certainly Florida, I remember. So you see this, there were certain cities had droughts. During the 3rd year, there will be a great famine, and men and women, children, the pious and the men of action will die, and the Torah is forgotten by those who study it. During the 4th year, there will be plenty of food, but not great plenty. During the 5th year, there will be great plenty, and they will eat and drink and rejoice, and the Torah will return to those who study it. Now here is where we're now, I said, in the 6th year. During the 6th year, heavenly voices will be heard. So if you look in the Hebrew, it says, Beshishis, in the 6th year, koilos. There will be noises, there will be sounds. Here it translated, what it translated as, heavenly voices. So Rashi, great sage Rashi, he says, it means that there will be murmurings that Moshiach is coming. Now I think, I've had so many WhatsApp videos on my phone from great rabbis saying that the coronavirus is the end of days, Moshiach is coming. Have you all seen that, right? There's been so much talk that Moshiach is coming. That's this koilos here. We hear voices, Moshiach is coming, he's coming, he's coming. So I think that's a prophecy of this. Other interpretations are like this. Koilos is bad noises, right? Screams, shouts. And again, unfortunately, with the coronavirus, we've seen a lot of shouting and screaming, people in pain, people dying. So to me, when I see this sort of thing, right, when we say the 6th year, that starts from Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah was in the end of September or middle of September. So it's already been a few months. So this whole election cycle that we've just been through and all this craziness with the election was all in the 6th year of Shemitah. So I think that's an interpretation of this kailos. Wall screams and shouts and craziness, right? Oh, that's all kailos, all voices. All stuff is in the 6th year. Again, I want to take our feelings out of it because it is quite frightening. But Shvi'is in the 7th year, which is next year, milchamos, there'll be wars. Again, it's a frightening thought. But I don't know if anybody saw over the weekend, there was pictures. Did you see the pictures of the Chinese army? Did anybody see that? I saw it on my news things that the Chinese sent out pictures of their army. President Xi Jinping, whatever you pronounce it, put out about his army being so amazing. They put out pictures of their exercises of these thousands of troops that were preparing for war. And I thought, ooh, is that preparation? Is that going to be America, China? Who's going to be the war? I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to show how I believe that things that we mentioned in the Gemara are happening now. That's all. Then the good part. The Moitzi Shvi'is ben David Ba. Then after Shvi'is, after Shemitah, that's when Moshiach will come. Okay. And now let's see a little bit more. Again, I think these are things that are certainly happening at the moment. During the generation that the son of David comes, the whole of assembly of sages will be designated for prostitution, and the Galilee will be destroyed. Now, there's been certainly a lot of great rabbis over recent years who have been caught doing naughty things. And whenever I see that, people go crazy. I always think of this Gemara. When I see the rabbis and great people and whatever, there was a case recently of a rabbi that I knew, and he had to resign, fortunately. I think of this Gemara. When I see that, yes, other people are very upset, and I'm not saying it's right. And as I said before, I'm not justifying it in any way. I'm just trying to think of the context. When I hear these things, I see the sages will be designated for prostitution. Okay. Now listen to this. The wisdom of the scholars will be diminished. Yeah, I mean, there's nobody, lost such great lights of Torah. It's frightening. Sin-fearing people will be despised. And here we have something interesting. And the face of the generation will be like the face of a dog in its impotence and shamelessness. So here again, I think we see that in this generation. So there's a few interpretations. What does it mean the face of the generation will be the face like a dog? Some people says the leader will have a face of a dog. So I don't know if any leaders that you think look like a dog. I don't know. But anyway, so there's two main interpretations of the leaders will be like the face of a dog, face of the generation. It says here impotence and shamelessness. Apparently, a dog has no shame. A dog will do its business, as we say, anywhere it wants. It'll do it in your house. It will do its business anyway. It don't care where it does its business. So that's the idea that a dog, says Rashi, has no shame because it will do its business anyway. So when I saw these rioters in the Congress just walking around, taking selfies and pictures, one guy was walking out with a stender, right? Walking around, smiling, taking a picture. I immediately thought of this. I mean, no shame, no try and hide in the Congress a little bit, try and protect my face, right? So nobody sees me, nobody can find me again, I won't get in trouble. People, not only that, they took pictures, they took photos of guys sitting with his legs on Nancy Pelosi's desk, right? Taking selfies, uploading it to social media. And I'm thinking, this is so brazen, this is so shamelessness, right? Oh, I don't care, I've broken in, right? And I'm sitting there at the desk, hello, selfie with my face, my name, and I put it on social media, right? What height of chutzpah, what height of shamelessness is this? And I thought of this. This is the face of a dog. Nobody cares. There's no shame. I'll do what I want. I'll do it when I want. I'll do it how I want. I don't care about anything. I don't care about anybody. And I don't care what you think of me. Whatever. Again, I'm not saying the rights and wrongs of it. Please don't think I'm justifying it. I'm not. I'm just saying what I saw. Right? It's now a historical fact because it's in history and we have that. shamefulness, shamelessness, right? That's what I think. When I see this, I see B'nai Hadar Kibnei Akela, the face of the dog, the leader's like a dog, the congregation, the generations like a dog has no shame. People will lie to your face. People will do anything. They have no shame, no nothing. And that's how, again, I believe this is where the age that we're living, the very end of Moshiach is here. We're living in the age of the face of a dog. Rabbi Zevi Saunders has another interpretation. Again, we see his interpretation today. He said, what is a dog? When you walk a dog is usually always ahead of you. But who is leading the dog? The person behind. So the dog's walking, but the leader will go, stop, we're turning left now. Stop, we're turning right, come back. So who is really in charge? The person walking behind. So you look at the dog out in front, you think, the dog's leading. No, he's not. It's the person behind, unless it's one of these big, massive bulldogs leading the people. I've seen that a couple of times, frightens me. I don't want to think I'm sexist, but I once saw this little small woman leading the massive dog, and this dog was basically pulling her, and she was desperately trying to get it, and I'm walking down the road, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure if it's, I want to get this, and I swiftly walked the other way, because I didn't think there'd be any. So besides for that, the person leading it is the dog. The person, who's holding the leading it is the real leader. So says the Rabbi Zevi Saunders, he lived, 200, 300 years ago already. He said, that's what it means, that the leaders are not really leading. They're always looking back, like the dog is always looking back. Where should I go next? So the idea is that the leaders are not really leading. They're only just responding to the whims of society. The winds are blowing this way today. I'll jump on this bandwagon. This will get me elected. And then the next day, the winds of change have come. And now I'll forget that policy. I'll forget that. So nobody stands up for what they really believe in. They're all being led astray by the people who, whatever. And therefore, that's how I also think is the idea that we're seeing that today. We're seeing that today, right? It's hard enough as a rabbi trying not to be like that, but we won't get into that now. So, it's everyone's trying to lead it, push, trying to steer everybody into the way we want you to go, do this. It's hard. We see that again. Now, again, the next bit of the Gemara. This Gemara was written 2,000 years ago, okay? Or just under 16, 1700 years ago, right? Long, long time ago. But yet again, look. Again, this is talking about the generation of the final time before Moshiach. Again, look, the truth will be lacking. There'll be no truth. Nobody will speak the truth. Nobody will know the truth. Truth is gone. The truth is lacking. And he who departs from evil is negated. What is the meaning of the truth is lacking? This teaches that the truth will become like so many flocks and walk away like today. There's no truth anymore. Not only is there no truth anymore, people don't. I can believe my truth. I have my truth that I believe in, and you have a totally separate truth that you believe in. I believe my truth is right. You believe your truth is right. The next person will believe his truth is right. There's no truth anymore. Nobody knows what's really right, what's wrong. The whole idea of, well, this is right, this is wrong, truth is gone. I think that's exactly what we're living through today's day and age. Right? It's to me, it's so clear, so obvious that these things that the Gemara is talking about are things that we've seen over the last few months, certainly over the last couple of years. We've seen all these ideas coming to fruition, and therefore we see that Moshiach is clearly at the door. Moshiach is clearly almost here. We see these things coming true. There's a couple more I wanted to show you. Again, Amar Rab Neroi, Dosha ben David Ba, the Arim Yalbinu Pnei Zakenim, Zakenim Yamdu Lefnei Na'arim. The generation in which Moshiach will come, youths will humiliate the elders. There's no respect. Nobody has respect for anybody. Nobody cares about anybody else's feelings. And elders will stand in defense before the youths. Right? A daughter will rebel against her mother and a bride against her mother-in-law. Again, the face of the generation will be like a dog, and a son will not be ashamed before his father. People have no shame. People have no guilt, right? There's no, at least when I was born, younger, and that's not so long ago, and of course you'll all tell me when you were younger, I was told children should be seen and not heard. My grandmother used to say that to me. Children should be seen and not heard. So when we had family gatherings, the adults would talk, and the children would be quiet. And they used to say, children should be seen and not heard. Now, there's respect. The whole idea of respect, it's you know, if a son is not embarrassed of his father, there's no, oh, he'll cash me, he'll spank me, he'll this, there's nothing. And therefore, I see again this fulfillment. And another one, here, this one here. And the entire Gentile monarchy will be converted to heresy of Christianity, and there will be no inclination among the people to accept rebuke. So I know here it talks about Christianity, but if you look in the Hebrew, it says, I said last week, I said in my shir on Shabbos, that I think the biggest threat to Judaism in previous generations was, of course, false conversion to Christianity, right? Don't be Jewish, be a Christian, pain of death. Now, I believe one of the biggest threats to Yiddishkeit, Judaism, is no religion at all. What did we say? The people who, the Yirei Chaitz will be despised. Homosexuality and all this stuff, very ancient, right? It's outdated, it's antiquated. That's right, even the leaders of all the world countries, they'll go against the Judeo-Christian, I think is what they call it, right? Isn't that what they say? Judeo-Christian values. So I think all these things are happening. And when we're off camera, perhaps you can tell me your thoughts and so on. So you see that these things, but here is what I think is one of the most scary, okay? Again, I'm taking my feelings out of it, I'm saying the Gemara. This is what I think is the most scary. The sages taught in Hebraisa. The verse states, "For the Lord shall judge his people and atone for his servants. When he sees their power is gone and there's none shut up or left." So we see that when the Jews are right at the end, there's nobody to stand up for them, that's when Moshiach will come. The son of David will not come until informers will proliferate. Now, today, people are being encouraged to snitch on their neighbors, right? You see a party happening in your friend, tell the police, right? You've seen all these things, right? New York put out a thing, snitch on your neighbors, right? In England, they put out a big thing, you must inform. That's this one here, informers will proliferate. There'll be so many people informing on everybody, because you'll all say, you know, that's what's happening. So that's one of the scary things. And the next one is, I think, the most scary. The Messiah will not come until the pruta will cease from the purse. Pruta is the smallest coin, right? You can't get married unless you give the woman something the value of a shova pruta, something that's worth a pruta. Pruta is a very small coin. So Moshiach will not come until pruta will cease from the purse. In other words, the world will go bankrupt, right? I think this is the most scary because you see with the coronavirus that businesses gone bankrupt, businesses have gone bust, and I think businesses will continue to struggle because we've shut them all down. Restaurants, this business, flight, whatever. Governments are bailing out people trillions and trillions of dollars, right? People, if it carries on much longer, there's going to be no money left. People are not going to have any money. The stock market, right? Okay, at the moment it seems to be doing okay, Baruch Hashem. But this one is the most scary. The pruta will cease from the purse, i.e., there'll be no money left. The world will go bankrupt. We see, in my opinion, these things are happening. Who would have thought 5 years ago the whole world could go bankrupt? And you see the coronavirus and everything's shut down. Business and commerce is shut down. Nobody's trading with anybody else. Could happen, right? Again, it's frightening to me. That's the most frightening. And again, finish with this. There are three matters that come only by means of diversion of attention from those matters. And they are Messiah, a lost item, and the scorpion. You know, you ever find something, you say, oh, whenever I look for it, I can't find it. As soon as I give up looking, I find it, right? You probably said that to yourself many times. That's from the Gemara, right? Three things only come by means of diversion of attention. One of them is a lost item. You only find it when you stop thinking about it. It comes from the Gemara. But the other one is Moshiach. What does that mean? So they interpret it like this. A lot of people think Moshiach is going to come by natural means, right? We'll get somebody who'll force everybody to come back to Israel. He'll force everybody to do everything, right? No, can't happen. When you realize Moshiach can't be human. Well, Moshiach will be a human, but Moshiach, the whole idea that a man will come up and do something can't happen. You look at the world today, you think somebody's going to get up, tell the whole world to believe in God, and everyone's going to listen, let the Jews go back to Israel, get rid of the Alaska Mosque or whatever it's called on Har HaBayis, build the Jewish temple. Can you really think such a thing would happen? No. So once you think that can't happen, you realize how's it going to happen? Miraculous methods, miraculous means. Now, none of you were at my inauguration Shabbos. I know that because Arthur and Marcia hadn't joined the shul yet. And again, it was my inauguration Shabbos. Not my inauguration Shabbos, sorry. The Shabbos I came to Delray Orthodox on trial. It was the week of Yom Yerushalayim, and I was trying to show off my Zionism, right? I thought if I show off my Zionism, I'll look good and it'll give me the job. Well, it obviously worked because I got the job. So I said in this speech how I showed through Tanakh that I believe the prophecies show that the state of Israel will once again be around before Moshiach comes, right? Because if you look at certain prophecies, it talks about the Jews will gather up against Israel, they will march on Israel against the Jews in Israel. And I said, look, if the Jews are living in America, and the Jews are in Timbuktu, and the Jews are in, what was it they wanted to send us to? Zimbabwe, right? Arthur, was it Zimbabwe they wanted to give us the state?
Yeah.
Right. If the Jews are all in Zimbabwe, why are the non-Jews coming against Israel to fight? What's the point? To fight against the Muslims? To fight against the Palestinians? We're not there. So you see, by the fact that the prophecies say they're going to come up at the end of days to fight the Jews in Israel, must be that the Jews are in Israel, must be there's some sort of a Jewish state. So the more you see history, the more you can understand some of the prophecies. I have many ideas. I think I was telling Arthur, and I've said this in shul, how I believe that the Harabayas is going to become, the Temple Mount will rise up as a volcano. There's only 4 minutes left, but I don't want to go into that now about stuff because it's late. But just to give you a good, easy example how you can understand, that you can understand prophecies with history. There's one prophecy that says that the time of Moshiach, God will bring us al-kamfei nasharim, on eagle's wings. So in the olden days, they must have thought, eagle, right? There'll be a real eagle, right? An eagle will come, we'll have a lift on an eagle. Hello, Mr. Eagle. The eagle will fly down, we'll climb on the eagle, whatever. But now we know there's aeroplanes, and not only is there aeroplanes, there was an aeroplane called the American Eagle, right? Am I right? American Airlines has a plane called the American Eagle. So now we can understand this prophecy that will go back to Israel on airplanes that look like eagle's wings, right? The wings, the eagle, we sit above the wings. So you see how you can try and interpret prophecies by looking and seeing where we are today. And there's many of them that talk about the Geula, talk about the destruction of Edom. Again, I don't want to scare people, but look at this. Kiyom Nakom Belibi, right? I have planned a day of vengeance, and my year of redemption arrived. Okay, this is Isaiah 63. This is the Haftorah for the last Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, the 7th of the 7 comforting Haftorahs, right? So this is, we build up the comfort, and finally this is where God says, I'm going to bring you back. And look, I trod them down in my anger, they trampled them in my rage, their lifeblood bespattered my garments, and all my clothing was stained. So you see that there are prophecies of destruction. There are prophecies of doom for the nations and for everybody. Again, I'm not justifying our point of view of violence. What I'm trying to say is that when we see these things, we have to pray for Geula, for redemption. We have to think in terms of redemption. Let me stop the share. Right? We have to think in terms of the Geula. There's a Chassam Sofer, who was a famous rabbi from Preshburg, also like 300 years ago. And this is also discussed by Reb Hershel Schachter, who's a modern day rabbi from YU, right? YU is the head of modern orthodoxy, right? So we could quote him without being called right-wing radicals, right? Because he's the head of the modern orthodox world. And says the same thing. You look at the state of Israel, the wars that happened to get Israel going, right? And even if you trace it back to the First World War that got rid of the Ottoman Empire and gave the British government a mandate, and then with the Second World War, people said, well, the Jews need a home. So if you do look at how wars facilitate redemption. I'm going to finish with this. Oh, I was going to share one more thing, one more Gemara, and I want to finish off on a positive note. Here, the Gemara says, I want to go into the whole context, but look at this. The Gemara answers, nevertheless, the war that takes place during the 7th year. Remember, we said the 7th year will be war, right? The 6th year will be noises, the 7th will be war. Says the Gemara, the war that takes place during the 7th year is also the beginning of the redemption process, and therefore it is correct to say that Israel will be redeemed in the 7th year. So you see how wars and some destruction is all part of the redemption. So it is a scary thought, right? It is a scary, sobering, humbling thought, and who knows what's going to happen, and who knows what's going to be. But I just wanted to say this shir because I wanted for people to start thinking in terms of Geula. Yes, some things are terrible. We get angry, we get frustrated, we get upset, we get annoyed. Yes, these are emotions are acceptable to have. We discussed that before. But we also have to think in terms of, this is all part of Hashem's plan. Why, what, who, I don't know. But yet, I don't know yet. But in a few years, we'll be able to look back and say, yes, when we were sitting, offering our sacrifices in the Beis HaMikdash in a couple of years' time, hopefully soon, right? We'll say, oh, yes, we saw how all this craziness, oh, yeah, when that happened, that led to this, that led to that, whatever. We'll see it looking backwards. So we have to have faith looking forward that what Hashem does, what Hashem is doing is part of his plan. And I hope and pray, right? The Chasam Sofer says you can't pray. He actually goes far to say, he says you can't pray for world peace. He said, because if you pray for world peace, it's pushing away the redemption. Because the more peace there is in the world, the longer it takes for God's, whatever. It's hard to understand exactly. I think we understand it, right? There has to be some sort of, whatever, there has to be some sort of breaking of the current way of doing things for Moshiach and the Beis HaMikdash. Somehow, what, who, where, I don't know. But I hope and pray that whatever happens should be exceedingly quick. Hashem still has the ability to tweak what he's doing based on our tshuva, or repentance, based on our prayers. What did it say last week's Pasha? God saw their davening, and it was their davening, says the rabbis, it was their davening, their prayers. And I urge everybody to pray for the redemption, pray for the coming of Moshiach quickly, speedily, and most of all, in a way without too much, bloodshed and craziness. But we have to remember there are prophecies of bloodshed to the nations. You go look in his eyes. It's not me. You look, take a Tanakh, but you have to study it properly because some of it, you have to really do it properly. You see some of these things are predicted, no matter what we feel about it, are and what are going to happen. I just wanted to say that to people. And now let me stop the recording.